film begins with Richard at home searching for something he can't find. While talking to his wife Storm, who is in the bathroom, Storm discovers that she is pregnant. She comes out and tells him the news. Richard is surprised at first because they had been trying to have a baby for 2 years, and they had believed that the cosmic radiation they were exposed to had prevented them from conceiving. But now the truth is clear, they will be able to have a child naturally. They become very happy, and Storm tells him that they will raise their child away from any danger they might face, since they are superheroes. We then see on television a celebration marking 4 years since the appearance of the superheroes. The host talks about the space exploration mission that was sent with 4 astronauts: Richard, his wife Storm, her brother Johnny, and Grimm. During that mission, they were exposed to cosmic radiation that altered their DNA, giving each one of them a superpower. Johnny was named the Human Torch because he can turn himself into fire and fly. Grimm became the Thing after turning into a mass of rock. Richard became Mr. Fantastic because he can stretch and extend his body, while Storm became able to turn invisible and use energy waves, earning her the name the Invisible Woman. Over the past 4 years, they have used their abilities to confront threats facing humanity, which made people consider them saviors and start relying on them. They were given the name the Fantastic Four. That day at their home, the robot Harper prepares dinner. Richard and Storm arrive and sit with Johnny and Grimm, but the couple seems nervous, as if they are hiding something. Grimm looks at Storm and tells her he senses she is pregnant. Storm is surprised he knew, and she confirms that she is indeed pregnant. Everyone becomes happy for her, and her brother Johnny is excited to become an uncle. Soon the news spreads, everyone learns about it, and the countdown for the arrival of the baby begins. Naturally, they begin to wonder if the baby will have superpowers like them or if he will be a normal human. This question occupies Richard's mind, so he designs a special examination bed that can scan the fetus. At the same time, Richard shows Johnny an experiment he developed that allows him to teleport any object from one place to another. Later, Richard wants to run the scan on the fetus inside Storm, but Storm isn't convinced that the scan is necessary. She tells him that they have already done many tests and nothing has indicated that the baby is abnormal. To reassure him, she makes the fetus visible by turning the skin of her belly invisible. Richard sees the child inside her and realizes she is right. The baby looks completely normal and will be just like any other child. That same night, while they are at home together, a strange phenomenon appears in the sky. They see a figure descending from space, silver-colored, flying on a board that resembles a surfboard. This figure is called Shelble. She speaks to humans in their language and informs them that their planet has been sentenced to destruction, and that she has come to warn them that their time is limited before the Devourer of Worlds, Galactus, arrives to consume the Earth. She assures them that there is no chance of survival, and that they should say goodbye to their loved ones because their fate is sealed. Then she ascends back into space and leaves. Johnny follows her and grabs onto her board, but she looks at him and says a sentence in a strange language, then pushes him away effortlessly and departs. After returning to Earth, they find themselves confused and unable to understand who Galactus is or why he wants to destroy the planet. Richard tells them that he tracked Shelble's movements in space and noticed that multiple planets had been destroyed across different dimensions, exactly in the same locations where her activity had appeared. From this, they deduce that every planet Shelble visits is indeed destroyed afterward. Richard tells them they must go to Galactus and try to stop him before he arrives to destroy Earth. At that moment, Johnny tries to explain that Shelble said something to him in a strange language, and he feels that the phrase carries a special meaning, especially because he had heard it before on the recordings of radio messages they had received from other planets in space. These were messages whose meaning and origin no one had ever understood. Johnny says he sensed emotion in her voice, as if she meant to tell him something important, but the others see no use in his words and insist that instead of wasting time, they should prepare for the mission. Indeed, they begin their preparations, and after a few days, humans gather to bid them farewell as they board the spacecraft. People place great hope in them to confront Galactus before he reaches Earth. The rocket takes off, their ship separates, and their journey through space begins until they reach a planet ahead of them. They discover that the planet is literally being consumed from the inside, and a massive spacecraft emerges from within it, the ship of the world devourer, Galactus. Storm uses her invisibility power to hide their vessel, and they sneak closer to the enormous ship. But suddenly, they are detected, and a massive surge of energy pulls them inside the ship without any control. Shelble enters their craft and tells them that her master, Galactus, has agreed to meet them. They exit the ship while wearing their suits, and Shelble orders them to follow her so she can take them to him. As they follow her, they ask how Galactus chooses which planets to consume. Shelble answers that he does not choose, implying that she is the one who selects the planets for him, and he goes to devour them. Johnny flies beside her and asks about the meaning of the strange phrase she spoke earlier. She tells him its meaning, "Go and say goodbye to your loved ones." Shelble then takes them to the colossal Galactus. They stand before his majestic presence as he speaks, telling them that billions of years ago he was once small like them, until he was struck by eternal hunger, forcing him to consume and destroy planets. He assumes they have come to beg for mercy, but Richard replies that they did not come to plead, they came to negotiate. Galactus shocks them by revealing that inside Storm's womb is a child holding immense cosmic power, and he wants to devour the baby, for he is the only one capable of satisfying his eternal hunger. If they want to save Earth, they must hand over the child and leave. Richard immediately tells him they will never do that, nor allow him to take their baby. Galactus responds that they have no understanding of the true power of the child within Storm, explaining that this power could make him the rightful heir to the throne of the universe. For that reason, Galactus intends to consume him and end his suffering from hunger. Storm goes into labor, and Richard firmly tells Galactus that he will not let him destroy Earth or take their child. Johnny immediately moves to attack Galactus, distracting him long enough for them to retreat to their ship and escape. They rush inside and flee. Storm is in pain, already in labor, but they soon realize that Shelble is behind them, chasing them. Richard orders the engines to maximum speed and commands them to jump from one dimension to another. At the last second, just before Shelble can reach Storm's belly, they enter another dimension and get away from her. But they are shocked to see that Shelble has used her powers to continue pursuing them in the new dimension. Storm asks her brother Johnny to eliminate Shelble using the ship's weapon. Johnny tries firing at her, but she dodges the shots. A black hole appears in front of them, and Richard orders them to move toward it, hoping to lose Shelble. But they approach the black hole dangerously close, enough to tear the ship apart. Richard then asks Storm to use her abilities to hide their craft. Storm uses her power and makes the entire ship invisible to Shelble. The trap works, Shelble is pulled into the black hole, and they finally manage to escape as she fails to follow them. After that, Richard calms his wife Storm as she goes into labor, assuring her that their son will be born as a normal human and will not be what Galactus claimed. The baby is born inside the ship, and everyone looks at him to find that he is normal and healthy, which brings them great joy. Afterward, the ship arrives on Earth, and humans believe they have returned victorious over Galactus, especially when they see the newborn child with them. But during the press conference, Richard speaks and tells them that unfortunately, they did not defeat Galactus, and that they tried to negotiate with him, but he bargained with them for something impossible to give up. He reveals that Galactus demanded their child in exchange for sparing Earth, but he refused. The journalists and people cannot believe that they did not sacrifice the child for their sake, and they ask Richard if they are now in danger. He replies before leaving, saying that he does not know, leaving them in shock. At the same time, we see Shelble returning to the massive ship, apologizing to Galactus because she could not bring him the child. Galactus orders her to retrieve the child as soon as possible, as the baby possesses infinite cosmic power, and eating him will end his eternal hunger and grant him peace. Meanwhile on Earth, Johnny is in his room wearing his spacesuit. His sister Storm enters, and he asks her to sit as he puts the helmet on. He shows her the recording he made of Shelble when she told him the meaning of the phrase in her language, and he explains that there are many recordings on the discs containing messages in the same language, which they received through frequencies from space, but no one knew their origin or meaning. He says that if he can decode that language, he will understand its meaning and communicate with Shelble. In the following days, public opinion turns against them. They appear on television programs where people accuse them of selfishness and claim they must hand the child over to Galactus and sacrifice him to protect Earth. They face enormous public pressure demanding that they give up the baby. Richard speaks with his wife Storm, assuring her that he will never allow such a thing to happen. Storm replies that she too cannot give up her son. Then she steps outside to the crowd gathered in front of their house, carrying her baby without fear, and begins speaking to them, introducing her son Franklin. She tells them that her son is a child like any other, and that she is a mother who feels the same love as all mothers do. She says she decided to share her emotions with them because she trusts that they will understand she is a mother like them, and that it is impossible for her to sacrifice her child. She also tells them that her decision does not mean they will sacrifice their world. This is impossible, because she considers this world her big family. Therefore, she will resist and protect her family with everything she has. The people sympathize with her, and she promises them that she and her family will confront Galactus and defeat him. She then returns home after restoring their hope. In that moment, Richard tells them he has an idea, to apply his experiment of transporting objects from one place to another, but on a planetary scale, by transporting Earth into another dimension in the universe, rendering it unreachable by Galactus. He explains his plan, which requires building gateways in various locations around the world, and activating his experiments simultaneously through them to shift Earth into another dimension of space, placing it out of Galactus's reach. He explains the idea to humanity on television and asks them to participate in building the gateways before Galactus arrives. Indeed, people begin constructing the gateways in different parts of the world. During this time, Johnny continues decoding the language, collecting its words and eventually succeeding in translating it. He rushes outside in excitement to tell them, but they inform him that the time to transport Earth has come, and the countdown begins. Suddenly, the gateways around the world are destroyed. It becomes clear that Shilbul has appeared and begun destroying them one by one, sabotaging their plan at the last moment. Only a single gateway remains. They realize she has come to take their child. Johnny attacks her, and she chases him until he stops and plays the recorded messages from the discs. When Shilbul hears the language of her planet, she is deeply affected. Johnny tells her that they finally understand the meaning of those messages and learned that they came from her own world, where she used to live, and that the messages were calling out to her and thanking her for saving them. It is then revealed that Shilbul once lived a normal life and had a child on her planet, until Galactus appeared to devour it. She swore loyalty to him in exchange for sparing her world. After that, she continued taking him from planet to planet so he could devour them. Johnny speaks to her and tells her that she is responsible for the destruction of all those planets, and now she wants the same thing to happen to Earth as well. Shilbul collapses under the weight of the guilt she has been running from, unable to bear it, and she leaves. Johnny follows her and tells her that he too is trying to save his world just as she once did, and he asks for her help. But Shilbul tells him that nothing can stand in Galactus's way, and she advises him to take the child and flee Earth before Galactus arrives, because he will destroy their planet. Then she leaves him and departs. Johnny returns to the others, and they sit together to think. They decide that they will not run away from Earth and leave humanity to perish. They will face Galactus. Then Richard comes up with an idea, to lure Galactus to Earth so that he becomes separated from the massive ship. Instead of trying to transfer Earth to another dimension, it would be better to lure him toward the last remaining bridge and then transport him to another dimension in the universe from which he cannot return. They begin planning how to lure him toward the bridge. Storm then tells them they will use their child as bait, since Galactus wants to reach him. Johnny and Grim object, but they have no other solution. The next day, they prepare and plan what will happen, but there is a problem. The city's residents will be in danger while Galactus is being lured to the bridge, so they must find a way to protect them. They call on Harvey, the king of digging tunnels, and ask him to take the city's residents and hide them in the underground passages. Harvey agrees because they had an earlier deal with him and had kept their word. Indeed, the residents go with him to safe places beneath the ground. At that moment, Galactus's ship arrives and approaches Earth. They place the child in the open square as bait and hide. Galactus descends to Earth with his gigantic body and scans the area with his eyes until he locates the child, then begins moving toward him. When he arrives, they spring their trap. They all attack him at once to distract him, while Richard swaps the bag containing the child, and Johnny takes the child and rushes him back home to safety. They prepare to lure Galactus toward the bridge to transport him to the second dimension. But suddenly, Galactus stops, scans the area again, and locates the child inside the house, changing his direction. They try everything to slow him down, but nothing affects him due to his immense power. Storm drives a car toward him and hides the vehicle, but he strikes it with his hand. Richard manages to reach him and climbs his body using his elastic abilities, but Galactus grabs him with the tips of his fingers and stretches him so far that he nearly tears him apart. Johnny and Grim hit Galactus while flying, forcing him to release Richard, and he continues moving toward the house. Galactus extends his hand, picks up the child, and lifts him in front of him, saying that the time has come to end his eternal hunger. But then Storm uses her power and directs intense waves at him, pushing him backward slowly. She uses an immense amount of energy she never knew she possessed. Richard tries to stop her, fearing for her life, but she orders him to save their child quickly. He obeys and leaves with Johnny and Grim. Johnny prepares to open the portal at the bridge, while Grim destroys the building pillars that Galactus is holding onto. The waves continue pushing Galactus backward, and the portal opens. At the last moment, Richard pulls his son from Galactus's hand before the portal consumes him, saving the child. At that moment, Storm uses all her strength to push Galactus into the portal. But just before it closes on him, Galactus emerges again, trying to escape. They must push him inside before it shuts. Johnny decides to sacrifice himself and flies toward him at full speed. At that moment, Shilbul intervenes, pushing Johnny aside. She throws herself toward Galactus and forces him into the portal, sacrificing herself. The portal closes afterward. Everyone rushes to check on Storm and finds that she is not breathing. Richard tries to revive her, but she does not respond, and he cannot accept that they have lost her. Their baby cries and wants to approach his mother. Richard brings him closer and places him on her, and the child uses his hands to bring his mother Storm back to life. Everyone is stunned, unable to understand what happened. Storm then tells Richard that their son is not like them. He is far more powerful. They rejoice at her survival. Afterward, the people emerge from underground and return to their lives in the city. A year later, the television once again celebrates them, with the news anchor saying they have saved them from danger once more. They prepare to appear on television, and a woman from the production team speaks with Storm and Richard, giving them outfits designed for their son resembling theirs, with the number 5 on them. But Storm and Richard apologize and refuse to present their son to the public as a superhero because he is still far too young. Moments before their television appearance, they receive an alert of a new threat. They immediately respond and head to their car. But before entering it, they adjust their son Franklin's seat in the front, taking a moment to secure him properly. Then they drive off to confront the danger.